Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Back with another review, this time on Armored Core Verdict Day. Let's get started. I'm at a sheer loss to hype anyone about the game, and this is coming from someone who loves mecha. Even the most dull ones I usually find some aspects worth looking into, except for Ninebreaker, but that's a topic for another day. Here, I am struggling so hard to get into a cockpit, let alone function in one. In the end, I'm leaning quite heavily on skip this please for the sake of your sanity. There is plenty wrong here, but I'll do my best to give a fair overview for those interested. Set 100 years after the events of Armored Core 5, I won't spoil what happens in the previous game, but suffice it to say, you control a new protagonist, the lone mercenary. Accompanying them is an operator, Maggie, and a transport pilot by the name of Fat Man. Yes, I kid you not, one of your handlers' names is Fat Man. Okay, unexpected Kojima character aside. You have slightly fewer main missions, or sorties, here than the predecessor with 60 to go through, but only 10 have relevance to the story. The 50 are mainly AC versus AC duels and the occasional eliminate every enemy unit. The sorties barely drop important plot scenes here, quickly dulling my interest. Sure, they can drip you lore pages after duels, but these only talk about the enemy and less about enriching who, what, where, when, and why questions about the ACs we use, and less so about the characters, relationships, and plot threads we encounter. Mostly delegated in cutscenes, but these are too small in number when a majority of battles are simply skirmishes without context, so a lack of context and exposition here hurts. To give you the bare minimum, the three forces reign supreme: the Vanid, Sirius, and Evergreen family, or EGF for short. I don't need to discuss their background because there is hardly vital information to explore, but the gist is that the forces are in a constant three-way war with each other for the power to use the towers. Tall megastructures dot various places around the globe with hidden ancient advanced technology. There is a fourth power, the Foundation, a group that claims neutrality yet supplies all factions with weapons and UNACs, unmanned armored cores, and you, my unlucky friend, have to navigate the different assignments from each of these factions. After completing all the missions offline, I have to say the story is a downgrade from its predecessor. Villains unremarkable of note and meh characters. The inclusion of lore is a nice touch that constantly updates in a sort of digital newspaper called the Voice of War, or VOW for short, yet these ultimately don't do much to engage players enough to immerse them further into the world. Serving as little more than a footnote, an after-action report after a main story encounter, and as a result disinterests me to care for world building at large. One could easily see this as a checklist the devs did to fulfill a lore requirement. Granted, the series isn't known for lore to feed since we have to piece together the sparse environmental storytelling told through fragments of cutscenes, character dialogue, and morsels of information that may connect with villains. Yet this in itself isn't a strong point to dive into from my time playing AC2 to Armored Core Verdict Day. There have been attempts by more dedicated fans on YouTube to somehow connect the pieces of lore, an endeavor I respect and admire, so perhaps there is something to tie knots. One feature I loved in the earlier titer is the workshop sites. These sites allow one to resupply and change their outfits with different parts. Here, the devs removed it in favor of larger, wider areas to fight enemies and much smaller levels. However, this presents a more bland design. Now corridors and areas become too samey and copy-pasted throughout. Once you see one AC versus AC engagement, you've pretty much seen them all, dropping you from one wasteland with cliffs to an industrial and another with broken factories and inoperable war machines. The lack of creativity compared to the tight-knit levels in the preceding ones is a cause for concern. This, coupled with a meager amount of interesting enemy variety and cool special boss encounters to wow you, are nearly non-existent here. This is exacerbated by a poor list of worthwhile main objectives beyond defeating all enemies. Sure, there are a handful of very uncommon ones, but more often than not, the objective is simply eliminate everyone. Where are the time limits? Defend against X amount of waves of enemies. Defeat Colossus type machines. Can't even go online since the servers are offline on PS3. I wanted to try some cool sorties I hear you can undertake with others, especially battling an old special enemy type from AC5. Now that's not possible. The servers were gutted, which comprises, I would say, a third chunk of content left to check out. Wish I could play that somehow. Anyway, there must be something here worth experiencing, right? Thankfully, there is. For such a bleak world, the soundtrack, composed by longtime AC composer Kota Hoshino with Yuka Kitamura, is surprisingly uplifting. Not full of edge and hardcore rock. Instead, I am treated to a slew of tracks keeping the beat, full of techno, violins at times, with bass during heavy moments, and chaotic musical mayhem. Not seeking to increase my anxiety, instead the music pumps me up to be efficient, keeps my spirits up, and despite overwhelming odds stacked against me, I persevere through heavy damage. Vocals are sung in a beautiful tone, sometimes in the background rather than the foreground, where prominent instruments like the drums reign supreme in precision tempo to not destroy the beat too much. Not with an intensity to the extent they're drumming without end, but utilized carefully to keep tracks soulful, pleasant, and full of good rhythms. Although some tracks raise the tension and suspense to full throttle, giving rise to my anxiety, but even so, it is still not enough to delve into despair. Some of these tracks for some reason feel triumphant, with hints of melancholy. In effect, the composition of the whole soundtrack is eclectic, with controlled chaos here and there. There is a neat addition here I haven't seen in all of the AC entries I've played thus far, and I dearly wish the feature will become a mainstay for future installments. In that, upon dying, you don't automatically head to the results screen. Instead, you are ejected from your mech with two big tanks equipped to your body to hover. From here, you can spectate the skirmish as an active participant. Did you bring along a UNAC with you? Let's see if they can defeat your enemies. If they can, you win the mission. Oh my god, this single-handedly saved my playthrough and made repeating assignments upon failing them not a chore, but something I'm interested in witnessing. Since my buddy could finish the enemy AC or remaining mobs, right? Yep, I lost countless times my ally finished the job when I couldn't. They are a constant companion when you hire them during your main campaign progress, so fighting alone isn't so lonely when you have a buddy along. Aside from that, you can even upgrade these guys and make your own customized AI, and even go above and beyond by allowing users to tweak their chipset to prioritize what to do during combat. I'm astounded at the sheer depth to have full control to tweak our AI companion into becoming a super killing machine. I didn't delve into the option too much since I only found out during my repeated attempts at the final battle, but even without tinkering, the default UNACs you can use do more than enough damage to help you to victory. I'll never forget Sign's UNAC D/01. The dude carried me through countless fights even when I used my previous build from importing. As with certain entries in the AC series, you can import your saves from the past game to grant you additional parts, use your loadout, emblems, etc. I was able to use the build I had before the final boss painlessly. So it's a good idea to import if you do have a save. Fast process, and you don't need to have a struggle in the beginning. That's pretty much the only thing I could say positively to defend Verdict Day. I could sprout suggestions on what not to do, but I think FromSoftware learned from their mistakes here and is actively working hard to improve with the next entry coming soon. Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. All in all, I'm incredibly soul-crushed to say Armored Core Verdict Day is a deteriorating mecha full of rust, and I shudder to enter the cockpit of one. The sum of its parts is not enough to redeem the underwhelming gameplay, poor level design, no noteworthy boss types, bare-bones story, weak world building, questionable feature replacement, missing online connectivity, and meh cast and villains. Customizing your AC remains satisfying, but everything else bogs my enjoyment, with very few positives for me to confidently recommend to newcomers or veterans. It's a shame the last Armored Core the devs made before diving into a hiatus goes out not with a bang but with a whimper. There is potential here, and I wish the servers were still online for me to play the multiplayer component. To anyone who enjoys this title, I triple salute your dedication, resolve, and continued perseverance to play, when I only had little. I would only recommend this to super dedicated fans who want to try the last Armored Core before Armored Core 6. By FromSoftware. But honestly, you're better off playing the past games in my honest opinion. AC2, AC3, Nexus, and AC4 are all better starting points. Anyway, thank you guys for listening and watching, and take care.